And now this Fox News alert, some powerful revelations in the Benghazi investigation. Newly released documents from the State Department suggest changes to the CIA talking points regarding the Benghazi attacks were made with the help of senior White House advisors in an effort to tie the violence that night to a video and not to, quote, a failure of policy. 4 Americans died in the attack on our consulate in Benghazi, Ambassador Chris Stevens among them. Let's talk about these new documents with A.B. Stoddard, associate editor and columnist for The Hill. Juan Williams is a Fox News political analyst. So these come out of a Freedom of Information Act request filed by Judicial Watch, Juan. Ben Rhodes, the president's deputy national security advisor for strategic communications, writes an interesting email on September 14th, 3 days after the attacks. And let me put up part of it for you here. This was regarding Susan Rice's upcoming appearance on the Sunday morning chat shows. And he writes, to underscore that these protests are rooted in an internet video, not a broader failure of policy. That was apparently one of the goals for her national television appearances. That's what they wanted to stress. What does that say to you, Juan?
It's politics, John. I mean, this was clearly, and Judicial Watch's president, Tom Fitton, said this, that this was a PR strategy being pursued by the White House. I don't think there's any question about it. And that now, obviously, this is the more political angle, that therefore, in his view, Judicial Watch's view, there was less concern with the realities of what took place on the ground, and that you had high-level people like Rhodes, and that this email then was passed on to people like Jay Carney, Josh Earnest, and others, Jennifer Palmieri, other top White House advisors concerned with the president's image, and wanting to make sure that the president came out of this looking like a strong, steady, steadfast leader. And less concerned with the actualities of what was on the ground. So it was a political document.
Well, they were about 9 weeks out, A.B., from a major election, an election which, you know, was still pretty much on the bubble, could have gone either way at that point. Was this all about ensuring that the president looked good in advance of his reelection?
Well, we have to conclude that. I think these emails show what we've always assumed, which is that you had officials in the State Department basically describing this as an attack. You had others in the administration saying it was clearly, in the intelligence community, saying it was a terrorist event, perpetrated and well planned by organized terrorists, not a protest. You had CIA talking points that were scrubbed and edited and rewritten. And you had Susan Rice go out and say anyway that it was all a video, and the president and the Secretary of the State, Hillary Clinton, when they welcomed the bodies home. This is really, not revealing so much new, except that we're just finally seeing it in type, that this was something they didn't say we are going to lie because this is so politically dangerous for the president and his re-election campaign and pretend it's a video, but they said certainly this is the result of a video, and they re-emphasized that president's steadfast and steady leadership should be highlighted by everyone talking about Benghazi. This is still a very befuddling situation, John, because you have 4 people dying, an ambassador for the first time in decades, and no one to this day has been caught. It's really hard to believe all this time later that we have Republicans privately pointing fingers at each other for why this investigation has not come up with more. And there's obviously the larger question of why the administration never really tracked anyone down and held them accountable for this.
We are going to have to leave it there, but it's some pretty interesting information coming out of this Freedom of Information Act request. A.B. Stoddard, Juan Williams, thank you both.
You're welcome, Jeff.